How's it going, NPA fans? Lynx Forte here, bringing you week 10 of the rundown. This week I'm flying solo as Levan and I have really hectic schedule, we've had really hectic schedule this last week, so it was just really kind of difficult to sit down with each other and, you know, talk things out. And because things were so hectic, I actually didn't get a chance to poll the other analysts. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm just going to tell you what it is I'm seeing and who I'm going to pick to win these battles. And honestly, I haven't written down these like my picks yet. So really it's just going to be me jawing off, looking at the teams and saying, this is who I think is going to win and different things like that. And these battles are really important for a lot of these coaches because, like I said, this is week 10. We have 4 weeks left in the season. And a lot of these coaches are still vying for playoff positions, playoff locks, and different things of the sort. Some coaches last week came out with losses when they really needed wins. So let's see what's going to happen let's see what's going to happen this week with these battles. Now, first up, we have the Iowa Haluchas versus the New Orleans Pelippers. Now, this is a really big battle for John. He is 6-3. He is coming off a win against Kyle Lay. But being 6-3 in this very heated red division, he needs to be able to pick up wins every single week. I think Brady is actually coming off of a loss. Don't quote me on that. Give me 1 second just to confirm that. Yeah, he's coming off of a loss, a 5-0 loss to T-Train. I am like all over the place right now. But yeah, he's coming off of a 5-0 loss to T-Train. It's not an unexpected thing to lose to T-Train, but coming off a big loss like that and being in the position that Brady is in right now, it's kind of where's your mindset. But with that said, he does have a very offensive team. I'm not sure how well that's going to do against Toki or John, considering, you know, as Levo has mentioned pretty much every week that he has a lot of water types. You know, he has a not so great rain team because of Pelipper. It's, you know, Pelipper got a quote-unquote buff with the drizzle ability, but it's still not the best of Pokemon. So John has Raikou to take advantage of that. He has Tapu Fini just to sit on the field, which he's done a lot. You know, he's done a lot of crazy things with Tapu Fini that I don't think many people would have expected to see. You know, Tapu Fini just a bulky water type, calm mind every now and then, but he's been able to set up on, or he's been able to have fun with the Tapu Fini set and different things. And he has the monster in Victini, or if it decides to be choice band this week, just V-create, get out, or different things Victini can do in of itself. He has been very creative in the past with Decidueye as well. It's not something I really don't think Decidueye is something that comes this week. Maybe for the Keldeo, I'm not 100%, but it's one of those things you have to play it by ear when you're looking at this matchup. You know, you just sit here and looking and say, Decidueye could come, it could not come. He's only brought it, I think, 3 times, so. But this is a week that John, you know, I really think he's gonna try to play for a differential, just because he wants to make sure he's gonna be in a good position when the playoffs comes. Like I said, he's 6-3. I think there are 2 other coaches who are 6-3 in this division as well. So I think this is a week he tries to make a playoff put or a push in the right direction, try to make it at least a 4-0, if not better. But this is the week I do think John picks up a win here. All right, and next up we have Kris Cobain and the Philadelphia Braviaries versus the Exception and the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Now, the Exception has put himself in a pretty good position to pick or to be able to make the playoffs in the Silver Division. But the thing is, he's going up against Kris Cobain. He is basically trying to make this final push to make sure he has the right, or Kris Cobain is trying to make the final push to basically just lock in the best playoff spot in the division, if not the entire league. He is currently 6-3, or is it 7-2? Give me 1 second, because the doc does not look right to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry. So yeah, Kris is 6-2. The bye week in there kind of threw me off. So with Kris being 6-2, and like I said, he has John sitting behind him. He has Duncan back there. He has Big Palm back there. Like, this is a heated division. Everyone's trying to make the playoffs. There are only 3 teams per division can get into the playoffs. So with this division being as tight as it is, Kris Cobain is definitely going to come out. He's put himself in a great position right now. He has a plus 23 differential. So I don't think anyone in this division is even coming close to that. So all he really has to do is just to keep winning. Outside of, you know, the other coaches picking up big differentials, this is Kris Cobain's division to basically lose. There should be no reason. Looking at the rest of his games, he has the Lux Rays, the Don Fans, the Clinks, and the Torcats. You can argue that he has 2 tough games because Papa C does not give easy wins. You know, I think he's only, like, his biggest loss was like 2-0 or something like that, and that's been a few of his games. It's 2-0 or 1-0, basically all of his games. And Duncan, because Duncan's going to be playing for a playoff position as well, if Duncan has not already clinched a playoff spot by that week, you have to look at Kris Cobain probably locking in a playoff position within the next 2 or 3 weeks here. But yeah, looking at the exception, I think he's going to try to bring one of his best sets and best teams this week, just because he's basically in a division that's easier for him to make playoffs, but he can't take a loss with his last 4 games. His last 4 games is the Braviers, the Rochester Ride-Ons, Los Angeles Landers, and the Maryland Terrapins. Those 4 games are not easy at all. Kris and Palm both in the playoff race. They're looking to pick up wins. Jerry Oak, I'm not sure he's in the best position, but I think he still has a shot to get in. And then you have his divisional opponent, Kelly, under the radar. Kelly's just gonna, no matter what week it is, Kelly's not gonna take it easy on you. So it's really a tough last 4 games for the exception, but I think he'll be able to pull out at least 1 win. I just don't think it's going to be enough to get him into the playoffs. That being said, I do have Kris Cobain picking up this win here this week. Should be a pretty good game for maybe Zygarde to come in and get 3 kills maybe. We just have to wait and see, but I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe either a Choice Scarf Porygon or maybe a Double Dance. I would go more along the lines of a Choice Scarf just to possibly hit Zygarde, or stop Zygarde from trying to any shenanigans or anything like that. So just be on the lookout for maybe Porygon trying to pick up some wins here, or pick up some kills here, and I would say this would be a close game. Alright, so next up we have the Free State Torcats versus the Miami Don Fans. Big divisional matchup right here. And when I look at Kyle's remaining his schedule, 3 of his last 4 games are all divisional games. It's Duncan, Kris Cobain, and then he has an outer division game versus the Hampshire Hunterz and Gofies, and then he has Radioactive and Iowa Haluchas. But the thing with Kyle is, I really don't think he enjoys this rain team. He can have some fun with it. He's technically not out of the playoff race just yet. I think a loss would put him out of the race. The best he could hope to finish if he were to lose would be 5-7, putting it at a negative record. But if he were to win out, I think he's in a good position to possibly make playoffs, or at least put himself in the conversation. It would depend on differential, in my opinion. But I find that hard to say, he pulls out 4 straight wins. I think he has a chance in this battle here against Duncan. The thing that I think wins this game for Duncan, I am picking Duncan to win this matchup, is his Alakazam and the Kartana. Kartana Choice Scarf can be a real asset. The thing is, because literally Kartana is paper thin, he has to be careful about Kingdra in the rain. Kingdra in the rain outspeeds basically everything on Duncan's team, even if they are Choice Scarf. So Kingdra in the rain can cause some real problems. If Kyle can play it to where Politoed is healthy the entire game, or he can make some great predictions, I think Kyle pulls out this win. But it's with the rain, it's always the issue of you need the rain. And that's why I'm actually going to pick Duncan to win this battle. It's unfortunate because that would put Kyle at 5 straight losses. It's unfortunate, but that's just where I'm going to pick it here. Like I said, Kingdra and maybe Mega Aerodactyl, they can both put in some work. I just don't think that's the case this week. I don't think the rain is enough. Basically the rain's not enough this week, and Duncan picks up a win. It'll be a close one, maybe like a 2-0 or a 1-0, but I do think Duncan picks up this win. Now, next up, we have the Rochester Ride-Ons versus the Colorado Rapidash. Now, this is a big game for both teams. As I said, as I keep saying throughout this entire video, that this is two teams vying for a playoff position here. Big Palm is sitting at 5-3, coming off of a loss to A Drive, and Moonlight Swami is sitting at 6-2, coming off of a loss in what I would say is the shock of the season to the Hampshire Hunterz and Gofies. I wouldn't say it's a shock that he lost. Anybody can lose any given week. The shock is that he lost 5-0, Moonlight Swami. That's the shock. Gofies has pulled the shocker earlier in the season when everybody was expecting him to lose, and he won. So, not even gonna say it's a shocker like that he won this game. He won the game 5-0 and beat Moonlight Swami, who was having one of the better seasons, one of the better seasons in the league. So that's where the shocker is. So both teams are coming off losses, both wanting to get back in this win column and, you know, stay in pace to potentially either win the division or, you know, top 3, make sure they make the playoffs basically. And this one I think has potential to be game of the week. It's just, I'm a Moonlight Swami fanboy. I'm sorry. He brings such heat every single week, and he can easily bring sand and just stop this team like cold. And because the sand is there, I think Pum's immediate thought is, I need to get webs up. But I don't necessarily think webs are crucial in this battle. I think what Pum needs to do is to just try either to get rid of Tyranitar early. That's if sand comes. He needs to get rid of Tyranitar early and then just stall out the sand if he can. Or he does need to, in fact, get up webs. And he wouldn't necessarily stop Excadrill, because Excadrill can easily just carry Rapid Spin and get them away. But he would need that, and he would need something to be Choice Scarfed. And that's, if it's going to be Choice Scarf, it needs to be able to take out Excadrill. And that would possibly be like a Choice Scarf Kieran Black with an Earth Power. I don't know if that OHKOs. I'm not doing calcs right now. I'm sorry, you guys. But if he were to able to do something like that, I think that's something he could. I think that's a way he can stop Excadrill plus Tyranitar. But like I said, he either needs to get rid of Tyranitar first, or webs definitely have to be up, and they need to stay up. One other thing is, you know, Chestnut looks pretty, but Chestnut is not a, you know, a way to beat Excadrill, because Excadrill does get Aerial Ace. It's something I've run in the past. It's something I've had run against me. So just putting that out there for you guys. Choice Scarf Embor could also be a potential. Every week I just like Embor in a battle just because it's kind of like a nuke. It hits something and then gets out. You know, it either has a great matchup or it doesn't. With Embor, I kind of like the matchup. It just kind of depends on how Swami's team is. Swami brought Wishy-Washy that 1 week, but I don't think we'll see it for the rest of the season. But, you know, Tyranitar, Choice Scarf, Superpower takes out Tyranitar, barring a Chopo Berry. That still might kill. I don't know. Depending on the Excadrill, and if it's in the sand, Choice Scarf, Flare Blitz, anything like that. He has options. Pum has options. It's just, it's basically what team does Swami bring and what sets is he using to try and counter Pum. This one I believe is a toss-up, but because I am a fanboy, I am going to pick Moonlight Swami. And just because it's such an unpredictable matchup, it's hard to say what Swami is going to bring, what he isn't going to bring. So it's a toss-up matchup, I believe, but I think it's going to be a great battle nonetheless, but I am picking Moonlight Swami. Alright, you guys, so in this next battle, we have Galactic Elliott and the Chicago Cub Shoes versus the Waterloo Saucebug, and with Old School Sin as the coach. So you guys, I can't tell you who I'm going to pick to win, because as I'm looking at the doc to see the matchup, I see that they have already played. So, well, what I can tell you is this is basically Elliott is looking for playoff position in the very tight blue division. remember, he has to contend with Swami, A-Drive, and Gearhart. Basically, there's 4 teams vying for playoff positions. Remember, only 3 get in. So Elliott needs a win. He needs to keep pace with the other 3 coaches vying for this. Elliott, we all know, has a monster team. It's just he hasn't. He's basically lost 2 of the last, or is it, wait, just, I think he's lost 2 of his last 3 matchups. He picked up a win against Nexus last week, but prior to that, he had lost against Swami, and you can call it a loss because that's how it was put down, but it was a 3-3 tie, loss, whatever you want to call it, against Bub. So basically, he's lost 2 of his last 3 coming into this battle. And on the other side of this whole spectrum, you have Old School Sin and the Waterloo Sawsbuck picking up 3 wins in their last 4 games, and that's just amazing. He even played under the radar Kelly, or I'm sorry, he played the United Kingler and Willow to just a 0-2 loss. So he's right there. He's looking to make a playoff push. It looks like, you know, he's 3-6 at this point. He has the chance. He's 3 games left. He can get to 6-6. I mean, in this division, in the Silver division, that's not all that great. He has a chance to make playoffs. Like I said, I can't give you my pick because as I'm looking at the doc, I see that they already played, so I'm sorry. So I just say, you know, like I said, both are making playoff pushes. Elliott trying to keep ground, and Old School Sin trying to make a push, basically. Next up, we have Gophie's Enigma and the Hampshire Hunterz versus Nexus and the Pittsburgh Peaches. Both teams sitting at 3 wins. Gophie at 3-5, Nexus at 3-6. And this matchup, it's 2 teams I don't really think have a chance to make playoffs just because of their division, and because I think this one basically, whoever loses, I think, is out of the running. If Nexus were to lose, he would be 3-7 at that point, so kind of hard for him to make playoffs when you have other teams who already have 6 wins and he's sitting at 7 losses with the potential only getting 5 wins. Gophie's, I believe, still has a chance. Like I said, he's sitting at 3-5. He can run the table or get to 7-5. His schedule does not favor him, or it's kind of split right here. He has Nexus this week. He has John next week. He has Kyle A the following week, and then he ends the season with Galactic Elliott. So you're saying best case scenario, or you're saying worst case scenario, obviously he goes 0-4. Best case scenario, in my opinion, he can possibly go 2-2. So that's putting him at 5-7, I believe keeping him out of the playoffs. But looking at this matchup here, it's going to be a tight one. As I always believe, Nexus has Tapu Lele, just the win button, you send it in, you click a move, and you're out. I don't really think Durant is an answer to Tapu Lele, although he could bring maybe a choice card variant just to make sure that Lele isn't carrying a choice card for itself. But I don't think Pittsburgh has anything that outspeeds except the Floatzel, and Floatzel's not really a threat to Durant, in my opinion. The reason why I bring up Durant this week is just because I like Durant. Durant is an underrated Pokemon, in my opinion, at least in the draft format. It's obviously, it's not the greatest Pokemon, but it's a Pokemon that can come in, maybe get a kill every other game. In some games, it can put in a lot of work, maybe late game if you play it right. But looking at Gophie's team, this is a toss-up matchup. Maybe Volcanion comes in with the choice specs and hits things really hard. There's not much that Nexus has to answer besides the Tangrowth. Oh, not even the Tangrowth, I'm sorry, I almost misspoke. Maybe the Quagsire comes in and puts a stop to it, but then you have the potential for a Bloom Doom coming from Volcanion just in case. So this is a interesting matchup. It all depends on what the 2 coaches bring, but I do think this is a matchup that Gophie's win and picks up his 3rd win of the, or 3rd win in a row, 4th win of the season, and I believe that would officially eliminate Nexus from the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to just say nope, Nexus isn't going to make playoffs, because I'm not sitting here doing the math, you guys. So this is just what I'm looking at, face value kind of stuff, and that's just what it looks like that would officially eliminate Nexus from the playoff if he were to lose this matchup. But I am going to pick Gophers to win this one. And now for the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks. If I'm not mistaken, I saw on Twitter that there were some technical issues, so that this game is actually getting pushed back to week 12, the week that both teams have bye weeks. So this will be technically their bye week. Week 10 is the bye week for the Seattle Star Raptors, and the Minnesota Vikings, they will play week 12. So A-Drive and Gearheart fans, you guys just sit back and we'll wait for that battle week 12. And now we have the Los Angeles Landers versus the Munchlaxter United. And you know what, Bub, you my boy. You know you my boy. And you proved me wrong last week. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it. Like, I'm happy for you, my guy. Don't get that wrong. But sometimes I don't like to be wrong. But I am happy that you actually proved me wrong, because I now know you have a complete understanding of your team. Like I said, you picked up a couple wins that were iffy a little bit, but I know you now that you have a complete understanding of your team. And that being said, Bub, after being a replacement coach, he is now leading this division after a couple teams in the division picked up losses last week. But Jared Oak picked up a win last week, a much needed win. And this one, I think, puts him back right into the running for playoffs. And now, as I'm looking at the doc, I also cannot tell you guys I cannot tell you guys my pick for this one, because they've already played here as well. So I can't tell you my pick, but I can just tell you that this one is an interesting one. Like I said, Jerry has put himself back into the playoff mix within this division. It's not the greatest of divisions. Teams are not necessarily beating up on each other, but you know, they're not blowing anyone away. You have to just look at this one as it is. Jared Oak picked up a great win against Duncan last week. It was a 2-0, and he's going against Bub this week. But like I said, Bub has mastery of his team right now. You always have to look at Mega Pincer as the monster that it is. You know, it sets up, and you might be looking at a loss yourself there. But I think Jerry has Tapu Koko to basically stop it, because, well, it can take a quick attack and then it outspeeds it. So what is Mega Pincer really going to do to a Tapu Koko at this point, unless it catches it on a switch in, which I just don't think, you know, Jerry would just willingly switch that in against a Pincer, because you always have to be mindful of the earthquake. So if anything, Glasscore comes in as well to stop Pincer. This may be even a week that Mega Pincer doesn't come, because you have Glasscore, you have Tapu Koko. I think Aggron can even eat up 1 or 2 hits, not even just because sturdy, but you have a couple Pokemon there that stop Pincer, or at least check it pretty hard. So this may be a week that Pincer doesn't come. You guys have to wait and see. Like I said, I can't give you my pick, but this will definitely be an interesting one. Conk, Suicune, and maybe Greninja, if not Suicune. I think they all have vital roles in this battle, maybe even Celebi. This one is a toss-up matchup, you know, from your perspective. This should be a toss-up matchup from your perspective, seeing as how Jerry Oak, you know, seems like he may be picking himself up. You know, he had a couple losses, and now he's got a 2-game winning streak going. So he's put himself back in this conversation, and guys, look out for that battle. Now we have the Adelaide Umbreons versus the New York Clinks, and Papa C picking up a win against Jodor last week. Many, you know, I think a few of the analysts, if like maybe a high majority, I think it was like 5-2, maybe 6-1, we're picking Jodor to win that battle, and with good reason, because Jodor was sitting in a good position to basically just keep winning his games, and he was locked for the playoffs. But Papa C picked up the win. Papa C picked up the win, and it's not like we were saying last week. It's not an unexpected. Any loss that he had been no less than 2-0. He had always been right there in the. He had always been in a position to win those battles. It was just 1 or 2 moves away from him picking up a win, and he picked up the win last week against Jodor, picking up the win 3-0. Sitting at 2-6 with a -1 differential. In a division that's not the greatest, it's basically down to, you know, the top 3 being Jodor, King Bub, and Jerry Oak. Papa C could pick up a few more wins and potentially find himself back in this playoff mix. And the same goes with Kris. Or, I'm sorry, Kris may actually be eliminated depending on who picks up wins and losses this week. She is sitting at 1-7, but I would not count Kris out of this battle. But based on experience and skill level, or experience and different things like that, experience and skill level being the same, I'm going to have to give this win to the newer Clinks and Papa C. That's just my pick there. Maybe Zapdos comes in and does some things. Kris hasn't really brought Celesteela as much as I think many people would have predicted. But that's just one of those things. I think Celesteela is one of those Pokemon that's kind of difficult to play with because it has various sets that it can run, and it's, when do I bring this set? What set do I use? And it's, you know, there's some differences in opinions when it comes to Celesteela. So, like I said, I'm going to pick Papa C to win this one and move to 3-6. Maybe put himself back into playoff contention with Bub and Jerry Oak playing each other, one of those having to get a loss. Alright, and now we have the Seattle Sea Kings and Jodor versus Duke City Doublades and Skylar. As we say every week, Skylar has had, you know, a not so great season. He's sitting at 0-8, -34. And it's so unfortunate because, you know, Skylar was rated to have one of the top, or one of the better teams, you know, drafted. And it's just unfortunate that he hasn't been able to, you know, basically pull off this team's potential. And I think this is just another week where he is going to fall short to Jodor. Jodor needs to pick up this win to basically keep himself in the playoff race. I think if he were to pick up another loss, it starts to look scary, you know, with his final few battles being he has 3 battles left this week, being the Duke City Doublades. He has the United Kingler and Willow, and then he ends the season with Bub. So his season starts to look iffy if he can't continue to pick up wins. I think he needs to get at least 2 wins. He needs to get to 6-6 at the bare minimum, just to make sure he's staying in the playoff contention, playoff race, however you want to word that. I think he picks up the win here, and then he puts himself in a position to either finish off the season 1-1 or 2-0. It just depends on him, but based on the season Skylar has had, I think Jodor picks up a easier win. I don't want to say easy, I say easier, you know, than he's had this in this season. And he, you know, either he gets himself even because he's sitting at a -4 differential. I think he either gets to even, or maybe he gets back into positive. I think it just depends on what Jodor's plan for Skylar's team, being as bulky as Skylar's team is. Alright, and now we have the Leicester City Pokemon Club and T-Train going up against the Choice Specs and the Orlando Magikarp. T-Train sitting at 7-1. If I'm not mistaken, he has the best record in the league, and if I'm not mistaken, he is already locked in the playoffs. And if not, this win, or a win this week, would definitely put him in contention, or definitely lock it in for him, giving him 8 wins and, at worst case scenario, 4 losses. But he has 4 games left this week, being the Orlando Choice Specs, Gearhart next week, the Maryland Terrapins, and the Waterloo Saucebuck. So he is going to end the season with 3 divisional matchups. So they're all going to be key, most interesting coming on later in the season against the Maryland Terrapins. That's a game I believe a lot of people are going to be looking for, just because the 2 teams are going to be right there waiting for it. But this is an opponent right here T-Train cannot look to sleep on. Choice Specs is sitting at 4-4. He is looking to make a playoff push. Right there with Willow, they're both looking to make playoff push. And like I said, the Waterloo Saucebuck and Old School Sin are making a push as well. So this division has just become very tight very quick. And this is T-Train can't afford to look off any opponent. I don't think T-Train gets hacked out this week. You know, we've talked about it in the past. I don't think he gets hacked out this week. This is not a you know, Choice Specs doesn't have a team that, say, rely on like Will-O-Wisp or a team that can really freeze you. I think it's going to be more of Choice Specs is going to play him straight up. And I think that's going to ultimately be a battle that he loses. Maynetric has been a monster for T-Train this season. And looking at this matchup, Mandibuzz, Aerodactyl, Dragonite, Mega Slowbro, Magneton, because Maynetric could come in and eat up a Volt Switch, Thunderbolt, whatever. It takes the steel type attacks. Not many of them, mind you, but it can take a couple of hits here and there. This, I think, a Choice Specs Maynetric comes in and just runs through Choice Specs team. Wow, Choice Scarf, Maynetric. I don't know if I said Choice Specs or Choice Scarf, but a Choice Scarf, maybe a Choice Specs. It kind of depends on how he wants to play around Aerodactyl and Sceptile. But maybe a Choice Scarf, you know, Maynetric comes in and does some Volt Switching, Thunderbolt shenanigans, and runs through this team. I'm going to give this match to T-Train. Maybe something like a 3-0. Alright, so next up we have the United Kingler versus the Maryland Terrapins. Now with the United Kingler, we know what we're going to get. We're going to get some Will-O-Wisp. We're going to get some faith in this Pokemon, some strong belief, but this is going to be a very difficult matchup. The United Kingler sitting at 5-4, and the Maryland Terrapins sitting at 5-3. Kelly having to forfeit a couple weeks ago, putting himself in a very rough position. Obviously we don't know. Maybe he would have won that battle, and he would be 6-2 right now. But being 5-3 kind of puts him in a difficult position, because now he's basically tied with Willow as far as this division goes, and both teams are obviously looking for strong wins. You look at the remaining battles for Willow, he has Kelly this week, he has Jodor next week, then he has a bye, and then he ends the season with the Choice Specs. You're saying possibly because of his team and how bulky it is, and then you have a couple of offensive threats in Latios and Mega Gyarados, you're saying Willow can possibly end the season with 3 wins, and being a replacement coach finds himself in the playoffs. And on the other side, you have Kelly, who finds himself with a very favorable matchup as well. Like he is, after this week, he has Nexus, then he has T-Train being, you know, a very difficult matchup, and then he ends the season off with the Tampa Bay Luxrays. So you're saying Kelly could finish off the season 2-2, 3-1, maybe even 4-0. It's how is he going to play his team, and how is he going to prepare for this bulk that we have with Professor Willow? I think this one is definitely going to be a difficult matchup. What I'm going to see is, what I think is going to happen is Kelly maybe finds, you know, a chance to get some hazards set up on the field, and then he finds a chance to set up with Charizard. Latios obviously has a defog support there. If I'm not mistaken, he doesn't, or if I'm not mistaken, Willow only has Torkoal to basically rapid spin things away, but Torkoal is basically set up fodder for Mega Charizard X. So it's, I think that's what's going to end up happening. Is that's my belief, is how I see this playing out, is he's going to find a chance to get hazards up. He's going to force a rapid spin from Torkoal if it comes. If Torkoal doesn't come, then, you know, Kelly has to find something else to come around, or to get around Latios. But it's basically, what I think is going to happen is who sets up first, and I think Kelly has the better chance to set up first, and then he comes in with Mega Charizard X, and I think he ends the battle with 3 kills in a row, and maybe he gets 1 other kill somewhere else before he sets up. But this one is going to be an interesting one, to say the least. But I am going to give this advantage to Kelly and the Maryland Terrapins. Alright, and that is going to do it for this week, you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember, battles start going up Saturday afternoon, Eastern time. I think the first battles usually go up around 12 o'clock. It just depends how the coaches, you know, once the coaches have the videos edited and ready to upload. But make sure you're following all the coaches. All their links are in the description. And this is Lynx Forte. Guys, have a safe weekend. Enjoy the battles. And we'll see you next week for another episode of The Rundown. I'm out. Peace.